Okay, dear ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon you all. My name is Kati Lassi and I come from Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry. I work there as a senior specialist. My work tasks are mostly related to legislation concerning marketing of the seeds, plant breeders' rights, controlling of wild oats. And also I participate with my colleagues to other topics related to this matter, like for example this new plant breeding techniques is one of those, and next week I'm going to participate to the Commission's organic expert group. There will be discussion on heterogeneous material, for example. Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry was requested to give us here a presentation about the Council decision that was prepared and adopted during Finnish ongoing presidency of the European Council. Finnish presidency started 1st of July and we have still 5 weeks presidency going on before we leave or hand the presidency to the Croatia delegation. And I will tell you shortly content of this decision that was adopted a few weeks ago. And then I will also go through with some background information related to that. I want to stress already now that this Council decision is about that the Council asked the Commission to make a study about this concerning these new plant breeding or novel genetic techniques. It's not about opening the GMO directives as it has been somewhere misunderstood and reported recently. I thought that we could go through a bit about in general, what are those new breeding techniques and talk shortly about the GMO legislation. Then just shortly we will go through the judgment of the Court of Justice of European Union that was given in July 2018. And go through some of the effects of the ruling and the discussion that has been going on in Europe since then. And then I will explain more about this Council decision and its content. I don't know how familiar you are with these plant breeding techniques. I will go through them shortly. I won't go into details of any of the technologies because it's not my expertise. My expertise is more like seeding rates and sowing techniques and so on. I'm an agronomist, but luckily I have colleagues in ministry who are more familiar with these techniques. Mutagenesis techniques differ from the traditional GMO technologies so that no foreign plant material or gene material is inserted to the plants. And they are not also so new. There is a quite long history. Mutagenesis techniques were used or have been used already in 1960s. And these mutations to the seed material has been introduced by radiation or chemical treatment. And these techniques, these old ones, do not fall under the scope of the GMO directive. There has been quite a lot of research, especially recently in the past decade or 20 years, and techniques have advanced quite rapidly. And nowadays we have also techniques that the place of mutation in the plant genome can be determined more precisely. And in recent years, techniques that have been developed are, for example, oligonucleotide-directed mutagenesis, and maybe more familiar CRISPR-Cas9 or other nucleases techniques. These are so-called gene scissors techniques, or maybe you are familiar with those names. There are also other techniques that are not listed here. Shortly about the EU legislation about the GMOs, there is Directive 2001/18 of the European Parliament and the Council that regulates the deliberate release of genetically modified organisms into the environment and their marketing. This directive and other legislation related to GMOs in the European Union aim to ensure that the use of gene technology does not cause harm to humans' health or the environment. This directive does not apply to organisms that are obtained by mutagenesis, as I mentioned already before. And techniques that are under this GMO directive and the GMO legislation are listed in Annex 1A, and it has to be read together with Article 3. And these techniques have been listed there in the, I think, in the late 1990s when this legislation was put in place. And therefore it has not been possible to take into account the newer technologies or techniques. We have this common European legislation in place, but also each member state have their own legislation. In Finland, we have the Gene Technology Act that regulates the use of GMOs in Finland. Just shortly about the situation in Finland. In Finland we have 3 ministries that are related to issues or different matters related to GMO legislation. And they are Ministry of Social Affairs and Health, Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry, and Ministry of Environment. In Finland, the Board of Gene Technology, known as Geenitekniikan lautakunta, is the competent authority regarding the use of genetical material. And it operates in conjunction with the Ministry of Social Affairs and Health. In Finland, we have a good collaboration and discussion among these 3 ministries. Actually, this slide relates to us to the topic that has been discussed and why we are I could say that the discussion culminates that there has been uncertainties concerning these new mutagenesis techniques that have been developed recently, whether they fall under the scope of GMO directive or not. There have been different kind of views in different institutions. Different member states have had different kind of views about that. Shortly, that in plant breeding, with the help of these new techniques, they can in general speed up the breeding process. And also some compounds can be removed, such as erucic acid or glucosinolates from rapeseed, or some tolerances, for example, for diseases or pests can be enhanced. Because there has been uncertainties how to deal with these new techniques, are they GMO or not. The French High Court, Conseil d'État, requested the Court of Justice of the European Union to determine whether these organisms obtained by these new mutagenesis technologies are they GMO or not, and should GMO legislation be obeyed or not. And Court of Justice gave ruling in this matter in July 2018, and in its ruling it decided that these kind of organisms that are obtained by all these new mutagenesis technologies and techniques are subject to obligations laid down by the GMO directive. This judgment of the Court of Justice is binding and it cannot be appealed. The Commission doesn't have to do any kind of additional legislation because this is binding as itself. And I have understood that it can be, there must be some new court case and new decision that can overrule this, but it cannot be appealed or in any way is changed. So in practice, this means that all agricultural products or food that are obtained by these new mutagenesis technologies and techniques need to obtain the rules about that are prescribed in the GMO directives. These rules concern, for example, traceability, labeling, and risk assessment. This applies also to the field experiments, like for example new varieties that are done, and also to the medicines. In a way, at least in some parts, this judgment was a bit of surprise, because there has been also I think the expectation was that these new technologies don't fall under the GMO directive. And there has been also in Europe, in I think in past 5 years, quite a lot of studies about that. In some studies, the result is same as, or the judgment is same as in the judgment of the Court of Justice. In some others, it's the opposite. And for example, quite broad scientific group of advisors have stated that these should not be stated as GMO. This judgment that was made a year and a half ago, it brought clarity to the legal situation of these new mutagenesis technologies. But especially during past year, I think, it has raised quite many practical questions regarding different matters, and it has had consequences also to the national authorities and especially plant breeding industry as well as research. When we think about the European plant breeding industry, this judgment impacts especially the small and intermediate companies. And in practice, I think in Europe, for the plant breeding sector, this means that the newest technologies cannot be used in Europe, or they can be used. It's not illegal to use them, but the varieties and the varieties, when they are in trial, they need to go through the quite expensive GMO registration process. In many third countries outside EU, like for example USA, Argentina, and Brazil, there has been opposite view to these technologies, and they are not, products obtained by these new mutagenesis technologies are not regulated as GMOs. Ruling does not concern these older, conventionally used mutagenesis techniques that have a long and safe history of their use. There has been some debate that what is this type of old conventionally used technology and what is newer, and how long you have to use it when it's like conventionally used, and it can be said that it has a long history. One topic that has risen quite often in many member states and also discussions with the Commission is that the concerns regarding the official controls, like for example, if something is imported, what methods and how these controls should be done. And member states have waited some further instructions from the Commission, because there is a problem that in official controls, when new breeding methods might be used, or we have to make sure that, because these fall under the GMO legislation. So for example, in imports, each member state have to somehow make sure that these products are marked with the GMO labels, and it's said that it's GMO material. So problem is that we have to use documents or rely on just on documents, because there is no, at the moment there is no analytical methods of testing this type of material, because products obtained with these new breeding techniques can't be distinguished from any other product, because there is no foreign gene material, there is no mark about the changes that have been made to the genome. So it's quite a big practical problem, but I think that there will be new technologies, and there will be development also in the analytical and testing side. And I'm not expert in that, but perhaps in future it could be done, but it's difficult. And also there has been not so much information about that, how much these new technologies are used in Europe, in the European Union, in different countries, and Commission has several times asked member states to give them information, and I have understood that they haven't got that much information. There has been quite a lot of information around this topic in I think in past 10 years, but recently in past few years. And there are stakeholders and interest groups that have insisted that this court ruling of the Court of Justice is not right, and we should re-examine GMO directives, but also opposite views have been raised. There is quite a lot of discussion in both sides. This topic has been discussed several times, I think, in the European Parliament, and Netherlands raised this topic and also the concerns that they have, for example, about the official controls, as any other business point in Agri-Fish Council meeting last May. And they raised these issues and said that something should be done. And Netherlands' proposal got support from 40 member states, and also Finland supported the opening of the discussion. So then we can move forward to the discussions during Finnish presidency. As I said, this was discussed quite widely last spring, and the discussion has continued during Finnish presidency. And as I said, there has been a clear need still to clarify the situation. There's still quite a lot of open questions related to this matter. And it was decided that this topic will be discussed during Finnish presidency, and we had a meeting in beginning of September. There was a council working group of agricultural attachés, where there was discussion about the proposal of the presidency. We proposed that Council could ask Commission to make a study about the matter. And this study is based on Treaty of the European Union, and it's Article 241, whereas the Council may request the Commission to undertake any studies that the Council considers desirable for the attainment of the common objectives, and to submit any appropriate proposals. And if the Council does not submit a proposal, it shall inform the Council of the reasons. This Council decision was discussed in September, and then there was this kind of member state had a chance to comment it twice, sent written comments to the Council Secretary and the Presidency. And this Council decision was adopted 8th of November. It got support from all the member states. And in this Council's decision, it's very short. There is a small introduction where there is written some background information, and the decision itself there is 2 main articles. The Council requests Commission to submit a study by 13th of April 2021. A study in the light of the Court of Justice judgment in this certain case regarding the status of novel genomic techniques under Union law. The Council requests the Commission to submit a proposal, and in view of the outcomes of the study, or otherwise to inform the Council on other measures required as a follow-up of the study. And in usual practice is that the Council requests the Commission to ensure that this proposal is accompanied by an impact assessment. So this is the adopted Council's decision, and the Council requests Commission to make a study about this matter. The deadline is in the end of April 2021, so they have, I think, 16 months to do the study. The Council doesn't say anything about the study. It's Commission decision to decide what they want to include and what they don't want to include about it. And hopefully with the help of this council decision we will get some more information about this matter and some answers to these topics that are being discussed and people have questions about them. Thank you.